Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Walking with the Master. And let me just tell you that, first of all, let me introduce myself for those of you who do not know. I'm Grandmaster Abdul Azziz Muhammad, formerly known as Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad. And it's a little formally and still. But nonetheless, man, welcome to the show. And I have a wonderful brother that's here with me, who has been around for many years in the art, around the art, all through the art, But he's also someone, one of the great reasons that he's here is because he's someone who knew Dr. Moses Powell. And my brother is Ed Umoja. My brother.
Well, greetings, Brother Muhammad. First and foremost, which is my tradition, I greet you and everyone in the name of God and our ancestors, in whose footsteps I most humbly walk. It's always say that when I talk publicly to open myself up to the Most High. As you said, I had the opportunity, the high honor, I say, to for 2.5 years to be around Dr. Moses Powell. Because, growing up in Brooklyn, New York, as a little boy, I always told people that the first person I saw when I came to this country in the 60s that did martial arts of color was Thomas LaPuppet. Yes. And after Thomas LaPuppet, I saw Moses Powell. And I did not know his name, but what I remember was the one finger rollout. Okay. And as a little boy, I saw that and I never forgot it. So later on, when I found out who it was, I was like, oh, okay. Growing up in Brooklyn, I know some of the people, and then I kind of lost contact with them. And then later on, I went to college. I went to college in Florida, and when I came back, to this area, to this region, I officially started my martial art training in Florida in Okinawan style karate. And so when I came back up here, just the natural transition. I went from Florida to Alabama back up here. And just finding the martial arts, I was very as you know, the martial arts gives you a lifestyle. If you truly follow the martial arts to the essence, from the spiritual side to the physical side, it gives you an essence about loving and respecting your body. Yes. Okay. And so with that understanding in me, I just found myself naturally being drawn back to the martial arts because of the work I was doing. And I met a gentleman named Grandmaster Camp in Brooklyn. And then he invited me to a gathering down in Brownsville on Linden Boulevard at the rec center that Moses Powell was having. And he told me, I said, man, I know that name. And then when I got there and I said, wait a second. That's the guy that does the one finger rollout when I was a little boy. I remember him. And that reconnected me to the martial arts family in the community. And that day I met Professor Bill Cloud. I met Soki Hassan and several. I remember those two because I ended up connecting with them. And then I started talking to Moses Powell. And I was really interested in what he was doing and what was going on. So I took some pictures there, and then kind of followed him for a little bit. And then the following year, they had the gathering on Pennsylvania Avenue. I forgot what building it was over on Pennsylvania Avenue, and that's where I met a lot of the other people that were students of Moses Powell. And I took a lot of pictures that day. I still have them because I look at them sometimes. And then later on, he invited me to come up to Vermont where he was staying. They was having a seminar up there. And I went up to Vermont and I met some other people in his circle. And the one thing I came to like about the art of jiu-jitsu and seeing what Moses Powell, it was very reality-based for the streets. Because, some of us, when we watch martial art movies, we really think that's what it's supposed to be. But as you know, sir, when you're on the street, it's different. It's different. don't compare what you see. Nothing, no disrespect. Don't compare what you see Jet Li and Jackie Chan doing on the screen to what happens on the street. That's so so being around Grandmaster Bill, that's before he had his school on Washington Avenue. He was doing he had a school he was doing on Fulton Street. I remember that. I met him there a couple of times. And Soki Hassan Khalid, I met him at his, he was doing some work over on Pennsylvania Avenue. I think it was a boys club or something like one of those buildings over there. Yeah. And then I met the brother who comes down from Connecticut. His name escapes me right now. He does that. He sits in the chair and the guy hits him off the chair. He comes off the chair. I forgot his name now. Oh man, he's out of Connecticut. I met him.
Grandmaster George Logan.
Yes, yeah, Professor Logan. That's what the time was, Professor Logan. I met him, and I met a lot of other people who were in Moses Powell Circle, and watching what they did gave me a lot of respect for the martial arts from a different perspective, because you saw the martial art as really a reality base, because they weren't trying to make you some Superman. They were just trying to show you things that got you home safely.
Yes. That's
and
right.
That I had a lot of respect for, because, you know, if you get hung up, the Kung Fu movies is really good, but okay. But you know, so that's how. So I had the opportunity to go up to Vermont 3 times to see Moses Powell, and just being around his people. That's I met you after that. Shortly after I met you, and just seeing how the people worked and what was going on. And then one of the people one of his students I linked up to when we became pretty good friends was Osei. And then Osei actually came to the Caribbean with us. He came down to St. Lucia with us one year. People fell in love with him down there, and he loved the Caribbean too. So I just kind of moved around the people of Moses Powell, and then from there it took me back into my Okinawa South Karate. I met some people in the Okinawa family and stuff like that. So what I found out in the martial arts that was kind of heartbreaking for me in our community, we were not recording at a good quality the images and the videos of our people. Yes. And I was like, and being a photographer, I had my own photography business at the time also. I was like, why aren't we not recording these images? And because, you know, we all make our transitions, but we always talk about, you know, we talk about images of Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and different people. And we look at these images and we fall in love with them. And I was like, why don't we have good quality images of the martial arts that look like me in our community? We should have more than I saw some of them, but being a photographer, I thought we could always do better because we have better equipment now. And so that led me to where I started doing more image. I took my business in the direction of recording these images of these masters and grandmasters of the martial arts. And I was like, we need these images. And so over the years, I did that. And remember, one year I came out to Chicago with Moses Powell. We did your pictures at your, I think that's the same year, I think one of your sons got his black belt. He went from his brown belt to his black belt that day, because I took the pictures of Soki Little John Stone hitting and all that kind of stuff. And I also met Soki Little John. I did his birthday celebrations for him a couple of times on Atlantic Avenue at Subbanam's dojo on the 2nd floor. Yes. I did some images there for him. In fact, I did a poster for him with about 25 different black belts on the poster for him, where he's standing on the bridge, under the Brooklyn Bridge, with a sword in his hand. I did that poster for him. I did some other work for him. So I got to meet a lot of people who were in that circle. But like I said, the thing that I thought I could actually assist was, how do we record these images and keep them and have them for the next generation? And I also said the martial artists, they work very hard on the mat to do the techniques. So I said, let me work very hard on the mat to capture those techniques on film. And that's how I built a very large base of film, of images of a lot of martial artists. I was able to go down to Florida. I went over to the Caribbean, just recording these images to have a library of images. And I got you several times when you came up here for Soki Little John's, when you came up to Brooklyn to Soki Little John's birthday celebration. And I got to do some work with some other martial artists. I did a poster for Grandmaster Bill. In fact, Grandmaster Bill gave me a really good picture of Moses Powell in Kess, and I cleaned it up for him. And I think he still has it hanging over his door when you go up into his dojo. So I did that. Yeah, I cleaned that up for him because he gave me the picture. I cleaned it up because I just thought, that, if we are to tell our story, we need to make sure we tell it to the best of our abilities.
Yes.
And so that prompted me to do the best job I can with my camera, capturing these images. And so that's what I did for like a little over 15 years. I've been doing it, and I really enjoyed it. But then I found myself, it's still a business, as you know. And so I found myself transitioning more to the film side of things, and that's where I am right now with my company. We're doing work. We have an office in Africa now. We have a production company in Africa. We have what we do in the Caribbean, and so between those offices we have in the Caribbean, we have an office in my homeland. I'm from St. Lucia, so I have people I work with in St. Lucia, and then we have an office. We have a production site in Uganda. KPM, we actually, there's a school that he teaches film and production, and we actually collaborate with him on doing a lot of work. And so Uganda has opened Tanzania for us, has opened Kenya for us, has opened Botswana for us, and opened South Africa for us. And as you know, when you go to Africa, the people are looking for us. They're looking for us to come home and see how we could network with them. And so I have had a lot of, I have been blessed to where a lot of people in those countries have reached out to us, and we're doing a certain amount of work with them right now. And then we have a team in Jamaica. We work with Brother Orville Hall. He has a series in Jamaica. We're doing a web series, and we're collaborating with one of our projects and his projects. And we were with him yesterday shooting some stuff in New Jersey. So what I found out, Grandmaster Muhammad, what I found out is that if we, no matter what it is, it may be martial arts, baseball, football, whatever it is, if we put together a system and a process that will help us elevate our global, our local, our national, and our global community, we could find ways to network with each other and put opportunities for our young people. Because as you know, because you travel more than me, our young people are hungry. They're looking for things to do positive work. And if you don't give them something to do in their hands that's positive, negativity is going to step in.
That's right.
And we see that all the time. And I found that out in the Caribbean and up here. So what my wife and I are doing, we're doing our best to see how we could take our God-given talents and apply them in a way that we use the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba. You look at Ujamaa cooperative economics. The economics of our community is key. You can be the best martial artist in the world if you don't have an economics process, then your dojo is going to shut down because you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your light, So we see that the Ujamaa, the cooperative economics, is key to survival of any community, but especially our community, because our tradition, going back to when our ancestors were enslaved, even before they were enslaved, but especially during enslavement of our ancestors, is that we could take a penny and stretch it into a dime. Our parents knew that. So we know how to make things work. We really do. As you know, we once we come out of those boxes that we have, maybe Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, whatever, once we respect those boxes, but we look to the network, I always say I look to put my hands in other people's hands and see how we could work together. And so with that principle, I've been able to move across several cultures and religious, I would say for right now, boundaries. So I work with the Yoruba family, I work with the Kemetic family, I work with Christians, the Muslims, and the Buddhists. I work with them because I said to them, and as you know, sir, the title does not make you a good person.
That's right.
You could be any title. It's what you do with your hands and what's in your heart that makes you a good person. So I always tell people, I respect all the titles. May you be Christian or whatever, but at the end of the day, show me what you're doing with your hands. Grand Moses Powell used to have a saying. He said, you could bend swords, you could do that, but can you fight? All right. And so that's what we are.
And let me ask this. You were mentioning, the film industry, or using film, and you're doing a lot with that. Are there any particular themes or focus that you have in that arena, or is it just filming whatever?
No, because of my belief in being a man of color and knowing the history of my people and where we come from, my theme behind me is my wife and I about business. One, we don't touch anything that disrespect our women. I always say that women are our roots of who we are, and if you disrespect your roots, how could you have good fruits? So we don't touch anything that disrespect our women. And my wife, being a doctor of clinical psychology, she knows how to work with challenges and help people regain their power, or help them move to the next level. So I'm always passing things by her because we are a team. I really focus on our culture as people of color, and I don't disrespect anyone, but my focus is me. So, and what can we do to make ourselves look more positive? So right now we have a web series we have developed in the second season. It deals with human trafficking. Okay. And so with the human trafficking thing is that that's what I spoke to Professor Bill about, Grandmaster Bill about. We have to understand that human trafficking happens right in front of us sometimes, because it goes from forced labor all the way to the most extreme level of pornography and stuff like that. So we have my wife and I, we created a series called Kadaga, and it's our series, and the series deals with women warriors, and women warriors from the aspect of education to everything, up to physical fighting. But the series is based on women warriors, and these are women of color, of African descent. Maybe Latino, because Latino families are. They enslaved us with Spanish, and those who enslaved my family were English. So I speak English, and they speak Spanish, or Latino, they speak the Latin. So we are doing this, and then what we are doing is that we are using film crews in different parts of the world. So we write the script and we tell them what we're doing. So the series it comes in 6 to 8 minute segments. And so we have shot in Italy, we have shot in South Africa, we have shot in Uganda, we have shot in up here in the US in several different states. We've shot in St. Lucia, where I'm from, and we have shot some stuff in Jamaica. So we have different crews shooting the scenes for us, and then we put it together, we edit it together. So we are able to tell, and that's the spirit of Ujima, collective work and responsibility, working together, understand our responsibility to make our global community better. So my theme is challenging people in our global community to find a common link so we can work together. If it's easy for us to fight each other, it should be just as easy for us to work together, right? I don't have to agree with you 100% to work with you.
That's right.
Let's find one thing we agree on, let's work on that. And let's not focus so much on the negativity. Let's focus on the positive aspect of us. And and then if we do that, sir, we're able to, the negative things, the things we disagree on, then we could find why we disagree on it. I might still disagree with you, but I'll get respect for it, because sometimes I think we forget that disagreeing and respect is two different things. I could disagree with you, but I still respect you, right? And so for me, I might disagree with you, but I still respect. So I say I might disagree with jiu-jitsu or judo, but I still respect the art.
Right.
Right. And so that's what so my wife and I, we look at how can we use our God-given talents to find common grounds with our families globally and work to make things better.
Yeah, I'm going to segue, and then I want to come back. I want to ask you, because when you even the things that you're talking about, Doc was a person who absolutely loved his community, his people.
Mhm.
He loved others as well. I mean, but he was a man of his community. And so as it relates to that, one of the things that, you know, as you mentioned, these various religions, what we found, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has presented this and had done the research on it, you know, that he identified that in all of them there is a common thread, and it's said in different ways. You know, we do unto others as you would have them do unto you. See, you wanna treat others like you want to be treated. So it's said in different ways, but that's a common thread
Yeah.
that is consistent in all of the religions. That you should handle someone, you should treat someone like you want to be treated. Now, it doesn't mean that even the person is treating you like you want to be treated, but the way you handle them and handle is you treat them like you want to be treated. You know, is what I've found. So I wanted to just go back a little bit with Doc also, and tell me, you know, your thoughts on him as an individual. What did you pick up from him? You were around him, you know, from time to time, you know, a lot. So what did you get from him? Tell me what kind of man you feel he was from your perspective.
Yeah, so that's what for me with Dr. Moses Powell. When I met him, and he was at a point where his he had physical issues, and I think for me, seeing this great man with his physical issues, but still being a great man.
Yes.
And so it made me think about it. It's like, here's this man with his physical issues, but he's still a great man. He took what he had. If he had 50%, he gave you 100% of 50%, right?
Yeah.
Because I saw
Yes.
times when I was with him and you in Chicago, I saw him get up out of his chair and he used you as an uki, right? I remember, and he also used Grandmaster Bill as an uki when we went through. I have the pictures, and
Yeah.
so to see him say, well, I can't do this like I used to, but I could do that.
That's
So
right.
I think just by watching what he did made me understand for myself, don't complain about what you don't have. Take what you do have and do the best you can with it. And
Yes.
I think that's the biggest one of the biggest messages I received from him. And he didn't tell me, he showed me by what
Yes.
he did. I went to California with him. He was out at, I think it was Pierce College. He was out in California. We went out to California with him. I did the pictures. I made Bob Wall, who just made a transition not too long ago. Met several different people. We did the pictures of him, and I forgot the brother's first name, but his last name is Farrakhan. He was an actor, I think, a dark-skinned brother. I forgot his
Okay.
first. I forgot his last name, his first name, but his last name is Farrakhan. He was very nice, and because of Doc, I was able to talk to him, and he extremely nice brother. And so I think one of the greatest messages that Dr. Moses Powell left for us is if you have 15%, use it at 100% of the time. If you have 50%, use it 100% of the time. And do the best you can what you have. Because sometimes, we have one hand full and we're so focused on the other hand that's not full instead of using what we have in the hand that is full. And going up to Vermont a few times with him and watching him, even in his limitations, he was still able to do a lot. Seeing his students come up there and working with him, and he came down to Brooklyn, seeing his students coming and working with him, because all his students knew the majority of his seniors. Let me say, his senior students like you remember when he was 100%. Okay, and so you guys respected that, and you still came for him to teach you, even though he couldn't do 100% what he used to do, but he still had the knowledge in his head.
That's right.
And I think that's what I admired about him, is that he still had the knowledge and he was willing to share it. And he couldn't do the rollouts anymore, but he might have you do a rollout, or he might have Professor Bill do the rollout for him, and then he'll explain the technique of that rollout and what are you doing when you're coming out of the rollout. So watching him, and doing when he did the hand techniques and stuff, and how he twisted the arms and the joints, and like what was supposed to happen, how the body was supposed to move, just watching him using what he had to tell the story and show the story, and then where he could not do it, he had one of his senior students do it, and that was pretty impressive for me, that he was still at that level of wisdom, because he never lost his wisdom. He just physically couldn't do it, but his wisdom was still there. He learned how to take what he can do and share it through the eyes and the hands and the bodies of his senior students. And I think that was a very powerful message to be around him and see, because it's not easy not to say you can't do this anymore, because we are men. We try. But I was watching him. I think as I'm talking to you, that was a very powerful message for me as a young man, to see this awesome warrior that I saw when I was younger. Now he was limited physically, but mentally and knowledge-wise, he was not limited.
Well, let me ask you this. When you were talking about the human trafficking, it's a big issue, but you don't hear about it like the trouble that's going on in the world in cities like in Atlanta. You can be on the train coming, when you're in the airport, and they mention it.
Yes, it is. I was just there. I heard it. Yeah.
They mention it, and I'm like, okay, is that big? It seems like there should be more said. So tell me, how are you getting that kind of information out? What is it that even people can do to be more aware of what is going on? Since you're dealing with this so much, I'm sure you can share with us, many intimate situations that's going on, so give us some.
Well, you said something very important there, sir. You said to be aware of it. It's all around us. And that's what, as we work, and see, our series is not, and I'd say this to people to be very clear, it's not a documentary, it's an action adventure series. And what we do, we bring the human trafficking, so that way I know one of my mentors was Imhotep Gary Bird, who had a radio show in New York. All right, I learned so much from him. I would say he's one of my mentors, and as his mentee, he always talked about being aware of your situation. So as you said about Atlanta, my wife and I just came from Texas, and we had to change planes in Atlanta. So our layover in the airport, we heard the PSA about human trafficking. I was like, told my wife, I said, wow, it's even found down here. Here it is, the mayor's talking. They had the PSA, the mayor, and they talked about human trafficking. I was like, wow, for them to take the time, for the mayor of Atlanta to do a PSA about human trafficking, that alone should make us aware that this thing is serious, because this is the mayor of Atlanta that's in the airport. They said this airport is one of the most highly used airport in the world, traffic-wise, so they know what's going on. So that means they have seen it in the airport. So we have to be very mindful that this is going on, not only to adults, to children, to infants. People have been kidnapped, okay? And also another part of human trafficking is body parts. People don't think about the body parts. They know there's people who have been kidnapped and having kidneys taken out of their bodies and different organs taken out for because someone else needs it. That's also part of human trafficking. Whenever there's a regular artist in South Africa named Marvel, Medrick Marvel, he's part of our series. And he said, human trafficking is the 21st century slavery. And he said that, I said, whoa, because it's happening right in front of us, and some of us not even aware of it. Some of this just, until it touches us or someone in our family, someone's missing, and people say, oh, this person's missing. I've been living here in Philadelphia, and a few years ago, there was a young child who went missing on the playground. They never found her. They kept looking, they never found her. And so they talk about human trafficking. And human trafficking, and people have human trafficking, parents. They say the parents kidnap, but that's also human trafficking. They put a different title to it, but if a mother or father or in-law takes the child away from their home forcefully to somewhere else, yeah, it's kidnapping, but that's also human, because you're trafficking a human against their will. You're moving someone against their will. That's what human trafficking is. So we have to first educate ourselves on what it is, from the most simple to the most extreme. And when we see that, there was a lady in Maryland, and she saw this young lady helping some kids. And then when the young lady saw her, she kind of, her face was in fear. So she felt something was wrong there. So she said something, and come to find out that young lady was under forced labor. Right? That her passport was taken away from her, and she was forced into labor. She was forced labor. She couldn't get away. And sometimes we have to, Grandmaster, we have to think from their perspective, not ours. Because you and I might say, oh yeah, I'll say something about this. I'll say something about this. I'll stop. But there's other people who are so fearful, they're not going to say anything. Back to the enslavement of our ancestors, the enslavers put so much fear into sometimes the women made sure that children never left the plantation.
That's right.
Right? So it's a mental game. It's a mental issue when we think about human trafficking. So why don't she just leave? Even I had that in domestic violence. You probably hear that in domestic. Oh, why didn't she just leave the house? Why didn't she just leave the house? But when someone puts that fear into your mindset and takes away your freedom mentally, they're definitely taking away your freedom physically. So you don't think about running. You're so fear for your life or fear for your loved one, you don't go. So I think with human trafficking, what we have to be, we should make ourselves more conscious of what it is and how it moves on. Yeah, there is the extreme side, but there's a side where it's forced labor. There's several different levels of human trafficking. So what we're doing with our series is looking right now, we're putting stories together. And I want to thank Grandmaster Bill, because I told him about what we were doing. He jumped up on it right away. He's like, yeah. And then he's introducing me to other people, some organizations that's working with it. So he knows, and that's what, if you know something, say something. We have to be very clear, Grandmaster. The film industry is a multi-trillion-dollar, it's not $1 billion, it's a $1 trillion industry. And why do I say that? Every vocation you could think of, on this planet is involved in the film industry, either in front of the camera or behind the camera. When you have something that's that powerful, either you use it or it uses you. You can't stand on the sideline.
Right.
All of us use the film industry in some level. Those of us who go to the mosque, go to the church, it's on television, right? We watch it on television. We can't get out. That's the film industry. Someone has to work those cameras. Someone has to work the equipment. Every vocation you could think of is in the film industry. So when you look at a multi-trillion-dollar industry, you cannot get away from it. So either some people say, oh, I don't watch television. Television is just like a small piece of the film. It's just like, the Black Panther, the first movie, Black Panther, they say it made over $1 billion. And the last two words, for me, Grandmaster, is the most important thing. The last two words they say is ticket sale. They don't talk about the product placement. They don't talk about the merchandising. They don't talk about all the other monies they're making from all they keep telling us about the ticket sale, Well, if it made $1 billion in ticket sales, you know how much money, every time you see someone walking around with a Black Panther t-shirt on, that's merchandise. The hats, everything, everything you see with a Black Panther on it is merchandise. And I watch movies differently now. Like in the first, when they show you a Black Panther, and they're driving the fancy cars, and you know what? That's product placement. Some company paid them to put their product in that movie. That's not part of ticket sales.
That's
so
right.
when we have something that powerful in our community, we should use it to help our community. And that's what we're doing. So my wife and I, we're using the film industry to tell stories about human trafficking. Now, we might not have the money like Disney and Marvel, but what we can do in the spirit of Ujima collective work and responsibility, we do our Kuchi Chakalia. We tell it from our perspective, our way, instead of waiting for someone else to tell it. And so we use our creativity to find ways to tell it from our perspective. So human trafficking is a horrible thing. You have people who are using it and they call it different names to make it sound like, politically correct. How could something be politically correct when you're taking someone's freedom away from them?
That's right, because they look at it like a commodity, you see, and it brings to mind Atlanta again, when those little girls, all those girls, they put it on a Black man, like he was able and so cunning and had so much that he was able to do. They put all of that on him, all of those girls. You think maybe, it was something a little more than him.
And I think one of our, as human beings, one of our challenges is to make sure if someone tells you A, B, trust and believe it's C, D, E, and F is somewhere. If I'm telling you A and B, there's C, D, E, and F and so forth around the corner somewhere. I might not know about it, but I should always think about that, because when I watch the news, it's always kind of interesting to me, the local news, the first 3 or 4 stories is always the same across the board in the major channels, right? And I'm like, well, we have so many stories in the community. Why is your first 2 or 3 stories is the same? What about those other things? So I always tell people, watch the local news and watch the first 2 or 3 stories is pretty much the same, unless they tell you, then they say, we have an exclusive report. They're just trying to tell you, well, we got there first before they got there, right? and so when I look at that, it's very interesting to me. What are we? I grew up in New York City, and one of the newspapers I used to love reading was the Amsterdam newspaper, right? At that time, Mr. Bill Tatum was the publisher, and it was always interesting reading that paper and then seeing the Daily News, the Post, and the Times, and how the stories were so different in that one paper. I said, what made what made his newspaper so good, so different, is because of the perspective where they came from. And that's what we have to look at as people of color. What makes our community so different than other communities? Our perspective on what we allow other people outside of our community to put on us. You see, I always talk about Kuchi Chakalia, self-determination. If you look at self-determination, and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan talks about, he might not call it Kuchi Chakalia, but when he talks about we as a people moving in that direction, we as a people moving together, that's Kuchi Chakalia. That's self-determination. When we speak for ourselves and do for ourselves, instead of waiting for someone else to do it, because no one else can speak for you the way you speak for yourself, because they don't have your heart. They didn't experience it the way you experience it or when you experience it. So when you allow someone to speak for you so much, they're going to change the story. Like, say the hunter tells it from one perspective, the lion sees it from another perspective. And so as we look at these things, we have to, that falls on us. That falls on us. One of the big issues we have here in Philly, across the country, is gun violence. It's kind of interesting to me, and I'm not anti or pro. I just put it out there. It's kind of interesting to me, sir, that I have never seen a gun manufacturing plant in an African American community. There might be one, but I haven't seen one. But yet our community has so much of those weapons. And so it tells me who's setting the tone and how is it getting into our community.
That's right. I mean, because clearly we don't have the money, nor the munitions factories to produce such. Yeah. But yes, it's in our community. So we definitely have to look at that. But so now you've been around, in the film. You're in the film industry, bringing a particular line of films. Could you mention those films again, and how could we get to see some of your work?
Yeah. Well, the first film that my company did was a short film called The Bench. The Bench is where we challenge people to look at from a perspective of sexting, where children send inappropriate pictures across the internet on their phones, and what it could do. So we did a short film in the Caribbean on that. I have worked with other individuals on their film, but that film was my film that my company, my wife and I, we produced. That now the film right now we're doing the series, the web series we're doing right now is on our. We have a Vimeo page and we have a YouTube channel. So it's like umojaphoto.com is our website. umojaphoto.com. umojaphoto.com is our website, and people go there and the links will take you straight to that. So the challenge for us, Grandmaster. The challenge for us is because we're coming from a conscious, educational, entertainment perspective, the funding is not there for that. Not a lot of funding is there because our women are dressed. They're not showing a lot of skin. Okay. Our men are not calling the women out of their names. So we keep a tight rein on that because I truly believe we could educate ourselves and we could entertain ourselves without disrespecting ourselves. Okay, that's something my wife and I believe, and we stick to that. Now there are times when we have to tell a story, and this is why my wife is a clinical psychologist. We tell a story, but we tell the story from a perspective where it gives the person their power back. You talk about physical violence, domestic violence. You have to tell those stories. They are in our community. We're not trying to say our community is perfect. They are in our community, but there's ways that we could tell it, so that way we educate our community about it, and we give our community their power back. And this is something, having my wife as a clinical psychologist, she's able to give me the proper directions and input, so that way it can be done. Like we just came out of Texas for the Texas Library Association convention, and while we were down there, my wife's books, she has a series of books for children, and someone saw some of the words and said, "Oh, in Texas you can't use those words anymore." I said, "Oh, really?" So they were telling. So as we were in Texas, they're telling her she can't use those words to describe the situation anymore. They don't allow that in Texas anymore. And it's like, oh wow. And that's now these are librarians. So to be a librarian, you must at least a master's degree, right? So you're talking about in the group we were, there was like probably 4,000 to 6,000 librarians from across Texas. We were in Austin, Texas. So there's a big convention, and we learned so much. We learned so much of being there that we came back and we had like, wow, it blew us away. And the amount of things we learned at this one convention, because here are these librarians who putting all this in. It was really good. It was really cool being there and just getting so much information from them. But each state has their own convention for librarians, and we were invited to this one in Austin, Texas, a couple of weeks ago. So when we went down there, we learned a lot from what's going on in Texas and the kind of some of the books that's not allowed anymore, and and the words you cannot say anymore. And that's the entertainment. That's the entertainment industry also, because if they can't use those words, then it affects the way you tell the story. So now some of the stuff my wife has in her books, it says that her books it's inappropriate for certain things in Texas. It's okay up here in Pennsylvania, but it's not okay it's not okay in Texas.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really something that we have that kind of thing going on, but we've been fighting this fight for some time, and we have to continue to fight like that.
Yeah.
Now, you have been working with your wife for a long time, right?
Yeah, we've been, you know, Grandmaster. The thing, my wife and I, we like this couple days ago, we realized something. When we came into our union, she had a lot of stuff she was working on. As a clinical psychologist, she's doing a lot of stuff already, and I came in with a lot of stuff I was doing. But this series called Kadaga is the first series that we're doing from scratch together. And we didn't realize it until she said something. I said, you know what? I came and do martial arts, photos, photography, and all this, and doing this. And I my degrees in aerospace electronics. I did stuff in the space program. That's where I retired from. Did all this stuff, and she came in. She had all these different things that she was working on as a clinical psychologist here in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. So we came in with a lot of stuff, and we merged them together, right? And Kadaga, the web series, is the first thing we're working on together that's from scratch. I mean, there was no Kadaga in our lives when we came together. So this is really cool. So this series, this web series has taken a new life for us because it has us look where we came from, and we have taken it and we have put it together from scratch. It was never existed. And it's really cool. So it's a personal journey for us. And, you know, she gets to put her hands in there and what she did for a living and what she does for a living, because she's still a clinical psychologist. And then what I'm doing behind the camera, in front of the camera. So it's really cool. I mean, when you're in a union, as you know, in a marriage with someone, and you have a team, you have a partner, not just a wife, you have a partner, you know, a soulmate. It's a different ball game, as you know. It's a different ball game because all of a sudden, you know, I could turn around, she could pick it up, or she could turn around, I pick it up, and we know we groove together, and it's a good journey. Yeah, so you know, I said to her, you know, we've been together for 5,000 years. We just found each other again, you know. Yeah, but it's good. It's really good having someone like that. As you know, when you have a partner, it makes your life easier. And especially as a man of color, when you have someone truly understand you, because when you walk out that door, you have so much up against you as a person of color. How do you talk to the police? How do you approach this? How do you do this? So when you come home to someone who respects and loves you for who you are, you can take that deep exhale and know that, you know, the comfort of your outside, your home is my heaven. I think the Muslims say, is it Jannah? You call heaven? Am I saying that right? Jannah?
Yes.
So that's that's your home, right? Your home is that for me, because when I come home, it's always she's there. She sometimes she goes out and gets stuff for me and bring it home before I can come home. So she knows I'm having a stressful day and stuff like that. No, we have an animal clinic also, which comes back from her father's her side of the family. We have an animal clinic, and so you know sometimes things are stressful. But when I come home, she's always like, you know, tonight I said to her, I'm gonna do something, Grandmaster Anthony. So I'm in my office, and she just closed the door and she left me alone. So it's good to have a partner who respects who you are, what you do, and how you do it, and puts their input to help you. She, as you know, sir, women are life givers. So I give her something, she makes it better, and she gives it back to me. And that's the awesome thing about when we look at what women are life givers. Men, we do not produce life. The women birth the life. They birth us onto this planet. They're life givers. So when you give them something, they have the power to put life into it and give it back to us to make it better. And I will say that to them.
Beautiful. I'm gonna go a little personal, a little more personal. You're from St. Lucia.
Yes, sir.
Did you know that my father was from St. Lucia?
I never knew that. So we might have family, man. We might be related family. I did not know that. Wow, I did not know that. And oh wow. And St. Lucia's not that big. 238 square miles. It's not that big.
Man, yeah. So definitely we have to talk about that, and at another time, because see, I never went to St. Lucia. I've never been there,
Oh,
and I still have family there, and
wow.
yeah. So well, now I know you're from there, so we're gonna have to set something up so you can take me around a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've been blessed. I've been, I do a lot of work down there. I've worked with tourist board and several different things down initiatives on the island. And my challenge in St. Lucia is to when I go there, sir, because I left St. Lucia in the '60s. I see myself in the little children down there. Because if my parents did not take me off the island and bring me up here, and I had stayed there, I would have been them. So when I go to St. Lucia, sometimes my wife says I get very hard because I'm like, there's opportunities that we can bring on the island to help the island be better. And so for me, that's why I go back all the time because I see myself. And I have a lot of family on the island. I have a cousin who's very popular. He's a singer. He's a calypso reggae conscious reggae singer on the island. I have a lot of family on the island that know me. And there are a lot of people I've been going back and forth doing business in St. Lucia since 1998. So I've built up a nice core of people. One of our actors live on the island. Claudia Edwards. Claudia Edwards is an excellent singer and a wonderful actress, and she lives on the island. And she's on our web series. So we just shot some stuff with her last week, and we're gonna be editing it for the series. So yeah, I do. It's very personal for me because I see myself when I go home. I see myself there.
Awesome. Well, let me say that I'm truly appreciative. One, I'm just happy to see you. After not having seen you in some time, I'm blessed to be in your presence right now, and I pray that we can get up again soon. I have an event also that'll be coming up in July, and I would absolutely love to invite you to come on out and be
Oh,
a
I'd love
part.
to.
Yeah, here in Chicago. So I'll keep you aware of it and abreast of it, so that if time opens itself up for you, I would
Mhm.
love to have you come on through. It's our big event, and we normally have a tremendous amount of people. Last year we had about just a little over 900 at our seminar. So we have a
Wow.
yeah, you'd love it.
Hey, Grandmaster, probably we could shoot a scene around human trafficking at your event.
Awesome. And in fact, there is another young sister who is very involved in the knowledge of human trafficking. So I definitely want to put her in touch with you, because whatever it is, however you like to do it, she can be a point person to get things in motion, perhaps.
Okay.
But we want to put her in touch with you, because Danielle. So she does a lot of podcasts, interviews, and things of that nature. So I think she could be a great benefit to you and you to her.
Oh, please give her my information. I'm more than I never have an issue talking to people about stuff. Because you might start talking about A and end up in D, and that's where D is where you get your niche to fall into things and make things happen. And that's how I end up in Jamaica. I have never been to Jamaica, and now I have a team in Jamaica I'm working with. Because someone told them about me and what we're doing. So
Yes.
as you say, Allah has plans for our life. It's up to
That's
us
right.
to humble ourselves to the plans of the Most High and
Come
make
on.
those plans make us empower us to be better. And that's so for me. I listen to people and talk to people. There is always something in common. The African says 6 degrees of common ground. The Europeans said 6 degrees of separation. As you know, in the African high culture, there was never a separation, because even the villages that was in the houses was the huts. There was a circle, right? And so there was always a connection and there was a continuity in a cipher, 360 degrees of a cipher. So we have to realize in 6 degrees of common ground, everything is interconnected on some level. It's up to us to humble ourselves and find that common link where we can work together. And like Professor Bill, I haven't seen Professor Bill in a few years, but when I was doing this, when I was putting the web series together, I called him, and and he knows who I am, and so he took my call, and we were talking, and one thing led to the next, and here I am talking to you, and now you telling me you have family from St. Lucia. So the 6 degrees of common ground is there. We just have to identify it and recognize it and respect it and make it work for us. Because your family in St. Lucia, most likely my family, the island's not that big. Most likely my family. They might be working together before you and I work together. They probably be down there doing business together.
That's right.
So that 6 degrees of common ground is very powerful. We need to think and respect 6 degrees of common ground. It's not 6 degrees of separation. It's 6 degrees of common ground. If we put that power in those words, they become a reality. The power of Nomo, the power of the word to make things happen. In the Christian Bible, say, he spoke it into existence, right?
That's right.
So, and in the Christian Bible, it said, I can do all things through him. Not some things, I can do all things through him. So that's the power of the word. So why don't we use it more? Why don't we use it to keep ourselves connected? So,
Come on, man, teach it.
No, that's how I live. That's how my wife and I live our life. There is something between you and I that's interconnecting us. And now you just said about St. Lucia. I did not know. And you and I have seen each other so many times. I didn't know you had family from St. Lucia. And here we are talking right now. So most likely our family know each other in St. Lucia.
That's right. That's right. I believe that. Well, listen, this is, we're right at the end of this show. And I'm really, I don't want to close out with the idea that this is going to be the only show. No, we're going to have another one. We got to get you on again. If you would accept, we definitely got to get you on again.
I am, Grandmaster, you have my number. If anything I could do to assist you, because it takes many hands to push a boulder. You cannot push it by yourself. I cannot push it by. But if you get 5 of your friends, if you're 6 degrees, and I get 5 of my friends, we might say that's 12 of us right there, and we could push that boulder. So let's make it happen.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, I want to thank you and all of you out there that you've just heard what you've heard, man. This is a genuine brother who is concerned about his people, concerned about getting knowledge out to all that will listen, and everyone should listen because it's something for us all. So listen, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you share it with someone else, and you can go back to it and look at it once again. Man, thank you all for being present. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Present and us getting that wonderful knowledge that you shared. All right.
And I say to you, may Allah bless your home, continue to bless your home and your people. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. All right. Love you.
Student of a master here today, you reflect your master teacher. You want to walk like him. You want to talk like her. But you start by having an object in front of you that you admire.